So it's been a pretty big year for Motu Classics and Club Grayskull. We got a lot of figures this year. 2 full waves of Classics, 2 full waves of Filmation, 3 Filmation exclusives at PowerCon. We had the SDCC Atom. We had Holiday He-Man. They have pumped out a bunch of figures this year. So I figured we would take the time to do my top 10 favorite figures for 2018 from Super 7. So let's get right into it. Number 10, we're starting off with a Filmation figure. This is one of the PowerCon exclusives, and it's easily my favorite of the PowerCon exclusives as well. Kind of has to be because it's the only one of the 3 that's on this list. So number 10 is going to be the Club Grayskull PowerCon exclusive Spikor figure. I absolutely love Spikor as a character. I love Spikor from the cartoon. I say it a lot when I talk Motu. The cartoon is my Motu. I didn't have tons of vintage He-Man figures as a kid because of my age. I didn't really get into the comics until later on, so I grew up watching the show, so this is the look that I remember for Spikor, despite the fact that he's not in a lot of the show, and I just love the figure. He's incredibly spiky. He comes with a fantastic deco. He looks like he jumped straight out of the cartoon, so he was a no-brainer for me. Number 9 keeps us with Filmation, and this is Wave 2 Filmation from this year, and that's going to be Murman. So he looks like he came out of the cartoon. You really can't ask for too much more with this figure. There is, of course, the no-neck conspiracy with this particular guy. It doesn't bother me so much. He just looks fantastic to me. I think he looks like, just like with Spikor, like he jumped right out of the show, and Murman ranks a little higher than Spikor for me. Come on, let's face it, that's pretty common. So he had to be a little bit higher. There's a lot of figures on this list that I just loved a lot more than Murman, and while Murman is such a mainstay in Motu, he doesn't rank that much higher, and I do prefer the Classics figure over Filmation, honestly. But this is a fantastic entry in the Filmation line. You kind of have to have him. It's one of those quintessential Motu characters that you need, and he fits the bill. Number 8 keeps us with Filmation again, but he's not one of the normal Filmation figures. This is an exclusive. This is the SDCC exclusive Laughing Prince Adam. What can I say? I just love this figure. I think he looks fantastic. I love the idea of the figure in general. I think Super 7 knocked it out of the park with the meme aspect of this guy. Everything about him is just over the top, from the figure itself to the packaging. Everything is exactly like it needs to be to make it as weird and quirky and goofy as it needs to be. So much so that they had to make extras to meet the demand because it was so popular, even outside of the normal Motu collecting community. When that happens, you know you have a winner on your hands, and come on, it's a goofy meme Laughing Prince Adam. You kind of have to have him whether you care about the meme or not. Number 7 takes us to Classics now, and this is one that really took me by surprise because it's really a character that most people either, one, don't know much about or really have no interest in at all, just because he's not a classic Motu character. But Super 7 and the Horsemen just knocked the figure out of the park, and that is Fang Lore. Everything about this guy just screams cool for me. He's a humongous snake man with massive fangs. He's got the little snake guy. He has an extra head. He's got his massive sword. He's got his toolkit. Everything about him was just expertly done, and he just looks fantastic. He's menacing, he's a snake man, and that wins me over right away to begin with. But it's one of those figures that even though I don't have an attachment to him, I really enjoyed him, and in that case, he has to be on the list. Number 6 keeps us with Classics, and I know I'm not alone when I say that I have waited for this figure in one form or another for a very long time, and that would be Rat Trap, or the Horde Mummy. It's one that a lot of folks have been waiting for. We knew that it existed in concept form for a very long time, and it's just a cool figure. How could you go wrong with a Horde Mummy? Not to mention the fact that they knocked the sculpt and the paint out of the park. He has amazing accessories. Everything about him is just a great figure. I didn't have any real complaints when it came to reviewing this guy. I was won over by his crossbow alone, and it's a must-have. He's just as weird and quirky as any other Horde member, and he fits right in with the rest of the crew. Number 5 keeps us with Classics again, and this is a figure that, I don't know, it might be a surprise, but I have made it pretty clear that I love the New Adventures of He-Man. Big fan of it. I was at the right age when it came out as a cartoon. I had the toys as a kid. I've got carded figures now. I just loved the show. So number 5 for me is Quake. I think this figure is just pretty solid all around. I dug everything about him. The only real issue is that his hammer's kind of wonky, but at the end of the day, that's not nearly enough for me to have any real problems with him. His sculpt, his paint, the design is just perfect. It's that vintage figure upsized into a classics form with new articulation and added sculpt and paint. The Horseman absolutely killed it with this figure. Number 4 takes us back to Club Grayskull, back to Filmation, and it has to be my preferred version for the best mustachioed man in the line, and that is, of course, Man-at-Arms. Like I said, when it comes to Motu, my Motu is always the cartoon, and this guy just looks like he jumped right out of the TV. How can you go wrong with this one? Paint and sculpt is on point. They killed the likeness in that face. He comes with an energy effect, which is a real rarity in this line, and they worked it out really nicely. Everything about him is just executed perfectly. He fits in so well with He-Man, and he just goes perfectly with this line in general. It's another one of those instances where he is what I think of when I think of this particular character, so I couldn't not have him on the list. Number 3 takes us back to classics, and this is another figure that we have waited for in one form or another for a very, very long time. I've made it very clear that I absolutely love the He-Man movie, and just without a doubt, it's one of my favorite movies in general. I could watch it every day and never get tired of it. Number 3 is Karg. Whether he's the movie version or not, and we know he's not, he looks fantastic. The Horseman, Super 7, they absolutely killed it with this figure. Just being able to make him was enough to have him on my list, but everything they did was executed perfectly, and I just plain love this figure. There is no way that I could not have included him. He is one step closer to getting as Motu movie as we can in this collection. Number 2 is a classics figure, but sort of a Filmation figure. It's one of those that straddles the line. And this is one that I wasn't necessarily sure that I ever really needed until I had him in front of me. Number 2 is Dylamug. This is a figure that I just unequivocally loved. From the second I got him out of the package, I knew that this guy was going to be on the list. There's no way he couldn't. He's everything I could have wanted in a Dylamug figure, a figure that I didn't really ever want until I had him. I just think they executed him perfectly. I love the face plates. I love everything about him. I love the fact that he's 100% unique in sculpt, and he may be simplistic for a classics figure, but he's exactly what he needs to be for me. Number 1 is a figure that I knew from the second I got him out of his box that this was going to be on the list. It didn't take long for me to realize that he was going to be number 1, and there is a very good chance that this guy is going to be on my overall top 10 toys of the year list as well. I just like him that much. Number 1 is Club Grayskull, Filmation, Hordak. It's easy for me to say that Hordak is my preferred villain in general when it comes to Motu. There's just something about his design, about his look that I really love. I absolutely loved him in the She-Ra show. I loved his goofy nature. I loved all of the stupid stuff that he transformed into. Just everything about him is fantastic to me. I love his design. I love his color scheme. So when I got this figure in hand, I knew right away this was it. This is the figure that's going to be on the top of the list. There's just not any beating him this year. And Super 7 and the Horseman just absolutely knocked him out of the park for me. So there's no way that he wasn't going to top this list. I just like the character too much. And so I guess I'm a little biased, but at the same time, the figure is damn solid too. So that's my list, guys. That is my top 10 Motu Classics Club Grayskull figures for 2018. I would love to know what you think of my list. I'm sure you're going to tell me no matter what. But I would also like to know what your favorite figures are. What favorite figures, top 10, top 5, top 1, whatever you want to tell me, let me know down below. And we will probably see at least one of these guys on the top 10 list. Maybe Dylamug might show up as well for my overall figures. I'm just not sure yet, but we've had some fantastic toys from Super 7 this year. Not all of them have been this great, but they have really done a fantastic job with a number of figures this year. So I'm really looking forward to what they have coming next year. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you later.